Hi, thanks for joining. Today we review the Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. Let's begin. This is the most recent Samsung watch that comes in this Classic edition and also in a Standard edition. Remember that Samsung renews the Classic edition every 2 generations. So the previous version is the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, which serves as a reference point for us. In this particular case, its price isn't exactly low, to be honest. In Mexico, it has been announced at a price of 9,499 Mexican pesos. On your screen, you can see the reference price in dollars to get a rough idea, although it's important to remember, just so you know, in Mexico, taxes are included in the overall price. It's definitely a high price. In this particular case, its distribution is quite extensive, and that's a positive aspect, because you can easily find it in both physical and online stores without much difficulty. Actually, in the Samsung store, it is available for pre-sale at a price of 8,499 pesos. This time, unlike before, it's available in just 146mm size. Earlier, you could choose between 43 and 47 depending on your preference for a smaller or larger size. We'll discuss this shortly, but first, let's focus on its design. As you may notice, Samsung is introducing a new format. We could describe it as circular, since the body appears square with rounded corners. However, the screen is fully circular, also utilizing the rotating frame. I must say the design feels unique, but I'm not entirely convinced by the front's use. I believe there are just too many frame areas, which means they don't provide such a modern appearance. This is mainly because the trend in technology is to minimize the frames, allowing the screen to be the main focus. In this instance, it seems like they are leaning more towards a watch-style trend, rather than focusing on a technological piece. As a result, it doesn't appear all that modern from a technological standpoint, but it certainly looks like a well-crafted. The screen comes covered with sapphire crystal, which is in accordance with what one would expect in such an expensive watch. In this case, we will see that its thickness will be 10.6mm, although that is the figure officially shared by Samsung, but I perceive it much thicker. So I measured it, and it actually gives more or less 14mm thick. Considering the rotating frame that protrudes a little from the screen, possibly Samsung does not consider this elevation, or I do not know how they take the official measurement, but the truth of the case is that it is a thick watch that also has a weight of 63.5 grams, without considering the strap, so it is not too light watch either. In that sense, I think Samsung has not worked enough to refine its watches to the maximum. You will definitely find other proposals that give you a feeling lighter, more compact, even more comfortable. Though in comfort, I think. The watch has been trouble-free for me. When it comes to the materials used, it features a stainless steel case, providing a premium feel. I expect the crystal to be sapphire. Additionally, it boasts IP68, 580M, and 1000 STDH military certification. This ensures it will resist very well, therefore it's a watch designed to perform in various environments. And actually, it includes a water mode you can activate before swimming or similar activities to prevent accidental screen touches. And when you exit this mode, the watch makes a sound to expel the water. This is perfectly fine, as it is expected in a watch that is this expensive. Regarding colors, interestingly, now there are only options available in black or white. Here, as you can see, I have the white edition. It is not my favorite because of the strong contrast that is created between the screen when it is off. What definitely must be said is that it keeps the rotating frame, which is absolutely essential in a classic model. This rotating frame enables interaction with the user interface elements. Something I truly love is the feedback you feel in your hand. You can feel how you turn step by step. It's a super nice experience and feeling very premium indeed. This is what I like the most about Samsung. Regarding the buttons, there is also a novelty because it now comes with the quick button inherited. From the Galaxy Watch Ultra, that is, it retains the same 2 buttons of a lifetime. You know that the top button allows us to go to the home screen or activate the screen with 2 taps. It also allows us to go to the last application we had open, or you can also create an accessibility shortcut that will direct you to a specific exercise or application. By pressing the top button 5 times, you can trigger an emergency mode, SOS, and if you press and hold this button, Gemini is the watch's default voice assistant. More on that later. The bottom button goes back or opens recent apps. Samsung had great controls with customizable buttons, and now this new button improves it. More options, so you can set it to start some exercise or also for the stopwatch, the flashlight. activate the water lock, activate the camera controller, or start the voice recorder. But in this case, it's not just a button that opens the app, but it also interacts with the app. So when the app is open, you can press this button to pause and resume activities or similar things. So the layout of the buttons seems great to me, very well used, and gives you a lot of possibilities as a user to have different shortcuts. Finally, we have to talk a little bit. The band is interesting here because it features a leather-like texture on the outside, giving it a more elegant appearance. Meanwhile, on the inside, it has a silicone texture, which provides a softer feel, along with increased rigidity and firmness, making it better for monitoring. This combination offers a dual aesthetic, blending both elegance and functionality. The clasp on this watch is quite traditional, with nothing particularly unusual about it. It offers a more classic style, which is not overly sporty. However, it does feature a convenient quick-release method. By simply pressing this small button, you can easily remove the band. This allows you to swap it out for many other bands. This is a significant advantage of owning a Samsung watch, as you will find an abundance of available accessories. This is definitely something to consider. On the back of this device, we can see a plastic cover, which is quite standard. Additionally, it features the well-known Samsung bioactive sensor, which is part of the latest generation of sensors, along with the temperature sensor. In my opinion, there isn't much else we could wish for when it comes to the cover, except perhaps for it to be made from a slightly more premium material. However, using such a material might increase the weight of the watch. Opting for this square format provides a strong identity, yet it simultaneously diminishes the advanced technological aesthetics due to the presence of such large and noticeable frames. Now, let's talk a bit about the display. Another section where things are a bit strange. The panel is Super AMOLED 1.34 inches with 438x 430 pixels resolution. I already anticipated you that it is protected by sapphire glass. But here comes the important part, in case you hadn't noticed yet. It's a smaller screen than the last generation. Before, it was 1.5 inches in the large version and 1.3 inches in the small version, because I had told you that it was available. Currently, it is available in just one size, and the watch closely resembles the large version and the previous generation, yet it features the smaller screen from that same generation. This is when you start to notice that the bezels are indeed quite large and don't allow for optimal space utilization. From my perspective, it felt like a step in the wrong direction, especially since I am a user of the Galaxy Watch 6. I find it a super comfortable watch, pretty good, and if you come from that watch and you switch to this one, it does give you that perception that the screen is smaller and the elements are a little bit smaller. It's not such a drastic change, but you do get to notice it, and I didn't like this change. Fortunately, you have to consider that the screen now peaks at 3000 nits. This is another change from last generation. It used to reach only 2000 nits, which was already a pretty good figure for good outdoor viewing. But now it's even better, again inheriting, shall we say, the technology from the Ultra model. It has 327 pixels per inch, so content will look sharp, and it offers almost everything we could ask of it. Automatic always-on display brightness with equivalent dials between watch on and watch off to give you this comfortable transition feeling. It also includes the feature to activate by turning your wrist. However, I believe it still lacks in the night mode aspect, as this mode only functions with certain watch faces. Interestingly, unlike the Ultra model, which provides a red tint that is generally quite comfortable. For viewing at night in low light conditions, this one offers a green color that feels quite unusual. This is something I definitely did not appreciate about Samsung's design choice. It should be said that, for example, manufacturers like Amazfit enable night mode with a red tint for the whole system. The interface, not just the watch face, even on much cheaper watches. So I think this is a change that Samsung needs to make to improve the user experience. If you're already sleeping and suddenly you remember something, you need to check something quickly from the watch. It's much more convenient to have this night mode applied to the whole system than just a green mode for a single watch face. That is, if you want to use another digital face or have some special animation or something like that, you don't have night mode available. So I think this is an important point of improvement that hopefully Samsung will consider for future updates. Let's talk now about the sound experience. In this situation, I believe there isn't really anything to complain about. It comes equipped with both a speakerphone and microphones. This means you can use these features, for instance, to make voice calls. You can start a call directly from the watch or simply answer on calls, and you can also use the speaker and mic for the voice assistant. We'll discuss this later, as you can choose between Gemini or Bixby, but having an assistant is a fact. The fact that you have voice control directly on your wrist is already a significant benefit. And naturally, it's also for playing back music. In this situation, not only can you store music locally by transferring your files, but you'll also have the ability to enjoy apps such as Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and others. The availability of downloading songs locally might differ depending on the app you choose to use, but this feature is available in several apps, so you won't need to carry your cell phone, for instance, when you head out to exercise. And you can access all your apps or even your streaming playlist right there on your wrist. You can connect wireless headphones via Bluetooth to the watch, or you can use the integrated speaker, although obviously, the speaker is not excessively loud. It is mainly designed for listening to notifications or feedback. It can also play music, but only at a low volume. It's important to note that it doesn't include a siren, and while its vibration motor provides decent feedback on the wrist, it doesn't feel as premium as others we might encounter. On the Galaxy Watch Ultra, it gives me the impression of a much more solid, stronger beat with greater force. However, in this particular case, in the vibration settings, but it's not very premium. Let's discuss now the health monitoring features that are integrated into the watch, as this will be one of its major specialties. The Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, we can confidently say, is one of the watches that has a wide range of health monitoring options integrated within it. It includes the bioactive sensor, which allows you to, which we don't often find in other watches. It also includes a temperature sensor, and combined with the accelerometer, gyroscope, barometer, and light sensor, it can monitor various activities very specifically. But let's begin with the fundamentals. Clearly, the watch will provide you with a step count, an estimate of the distance you've traveled in kilometers, as well as an approximation of the calories you've burned throughout the day and the duration of your active period. It can include heart rate monitoring. By default, it provides monitoring at intervals, but if you desire continuous monitoring, you have the option to configure it. When this feature is activated, it can send you alerts for both very high and very low heart rates. If you're aiming for a very detailed heart rate monitoring, you can definitely have it, but be aware that it will use more battery. Additionally, you'll find oxygen saturation monitoring, a feature that is common on nearly every watch. However, two features that aren't typically found on many watches are the electrocardiogram and the blood pressure monitor. Even though these are only accessible in certain regions, fortunately, Mexico does offer this option. Then you can take an electrocardiogram from the watch, since the buttons are not only buttons, but also electrodes that will serve for this type of functions. The electrocardiogram takes a few seconds and that's it. You can even share that PDF with your doctor. And to measure blood pressure, in this case, it doesn't integrate an air pocket like what we see, for example, on the Huawei Watch D, so you need to calibrate it. In order to achieve this, you will require a specific device that is typically used to measure your blood pressure. Initially, you will need to input the data to calibrate it for the first time. Once you have completed this initial calibration step, you will then be able to measure your blood pressure directly using the watch. It is important to note that this is not a medical-grade device for this purpose, but it can serve. Naturally, you will occasionally need to recalibrate the watch to be able to keep taking your blood pressure readings. In my personal experience, it's occurred that on the exact day I think, oops, I feel a bit strange. I'm going to check my pressure. The watch has lost its calibration, and I need to recalibrate it. Therefore, I believe this feature might not be very practical if you only check your blood pressure occasionally. However, if you're someone who needs to monitor your blood pressure consistently, by utilizing these electrodes, the watch additionally provides you with a body for numerous generations and even from the most basic Samsung watches. Yet, it remains one of the features that other watches have not managed to incorporate. Furthermore, Samsung achieves this with a very high level of accuracy. Actually, all the parameters I mentioned to you earlier have a very high level of accuracy because the design of the watch has been modified and now it fits more snugly on your wrist, aiding all the monitoring to be far. But specifically discussing body composition and simply place 2 fingers on the electrodes, ensuring your elbows are not touching your body. In a few seconds, it will provide you with detailed information about your body. Composition, including the percentage of body fat, water, and muscle mass. This feature is incredibly helpful for gaining a deeper understanding of your total body weight. It's not just about losing or gaining weight. You'll also gain insight into which specific components of your body composition are changing. This level of detail is. A sleep analysis is also super complete on this one. Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. For starters, it has apnea detection. That is, it detects if you suddenly stop breathing and can give you some alerts there to tell you that something is not working right and that you should check with your doctor. It would also be able to monitor snoring, although this in conjunction with your cell phone. For it to work, your cell phone must be plugged into the power while you are this to prevent you from having an excessive battery drain, and the watch can alert your phone if you're snoring and the phone will start recording so you can later confirm it in case you doubt your wife's word. The sleep analysis is detailed, showing different stages and the time spent in each. It includes REM, deep and light sleep analysis, providing a score for quick review. If you don't know too many parameters, know how well or badly you slept, and it can even give you different advice through artificial intelligence based on everything it has monitored about you and your activity. You'll get a detailed analysis of your heart rate during sleep, which is important data. A graph shows your oxygen levels while you slept, your skin temperature, and it provides regularity and trend analysis of your sleep over time, showcasing its specialty. In addition to this, it also gives you stress monitoring because it has different sensors that also measure, let's say, the electrical pulses that might be coming from your body to generate your skin. The clock is accurate for me. It often shows high stress when I'm sick. If I feel strange and see high stress, I'm sure stronger symptoms are near. So that's what this monitoring is for as well. And of course, it also has guided breathing application and that kind of thing if you like to try to relax that way. For women, the built-in temperature sensor is vital because it will help them have a more accurate prediction of their menstrual cycle in collaboration with natural cycles. So here again, it uses everything you know about you to be able to predict more accurately. The Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is unique in providing an antioxidant index. This is crucial for those pursuing a healthy lifestyle as it indicates if you're consuming sufficient fruits and vegetables or if your body absorbs enough antioxidants. Naturally, this measurement isn't taken on the wrist. This is one particular aspect where you will need to take off the watch and place your thumb on the bioactive sensor located on the back. Naturally, it's a measurement that you won't need to update very often. However, if for instance, you want to check weekly how your diet is progressing, simply press this and initiate the measurement using your cell phone with the Samsung Health app. I think it's an interesting addition, because again, it's an option that's not available on other watches, and I like that Samsung is exploring new options to give you the measurement. In fact, Samsung is also going to offer you a measurement of an index that is called AG, related to blood glucose. Although it doesn't measure blood glucose, but in a way it can also give you a reference. It's a parameter closely tied to your diet and lifestyle. In both cases, it can motivate you to eat healthier or exercise better to aid in absorbing essential nutrients. In that sense, I insist Samsung is a specialist offering great features. It can measure vascular load. High vascular load can relate to diseases, helping keep you healthy. This and the AG index are both measured automatically. The antioxidant index simply requires you to take off the watch and place your thumb on it. What's even better is that Samsung provides you with very detailed explanations to help you understand how these measurements are being taken. As seen in these indicators, I explained it very briefly, but I insist in the Samsung Health application you can see a very specific description of what you can do to improve it, what these numbers and indexes mean, and the best thing is that you can see your history and see how your trend is changing if you are getting better or worse so that you can make decisions and you can have a much healthier life. And regarding other small details that might be useful when it comes to health, there is the fall detection feature and SEO alerts. So if you have that option enabled and it detects that you've fallen and aren't moving, it will automatically start a countdown to send a message to an emergency contact. However, this feature is turned off by default, and if you decide to turn it on, it will consume more battery. And something very interesting that is available for several countries, although for now it is not available. In Mexico is the medication reminder and tracking of laboratory tests, vaccines and more. It is a section of Samsung Health that I think is also very complete and interesting, but it is not yet available in... I insist it is not available in Mexico. Hopefully soon it will be enabled because there you could also have a much easier tracking of the medications you have to take at certain times and there to keep your history of all your analysis. In conclusion, the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic excels in health monitoring, offering unique indexes and measurements not found in other watches. Let's move on now to sports monitoring, because in this case it will also be a specialty of this watch. For starters, it offers you more than 100 modes between running modes, swimming, modes of different types of exercise, very specific monitoring of different patterns, and also has automatic detection of activities such as walking, running, cycling, elliptical, rowing, pool, and even dynamic exercise. If it doesn't detect anything specific but notices you're very active, it can automatically. For activities that are both indoors and outdoors, Samsung has introduced something new they call the running coach. This feature includes 160 plans that are fully adaptive to fit your lifestyle. If you happen to be someone who doesn't typically go running but is interested in beginning to get a bit more active, you can start using this running coach. It will guide you to run for just a few minutes, providing a reference point for understanding your current physical condition. Based on that result, it will give you different plans so that you can improve your physical condition, which I think is very good. The truth is that I am not an active person, so I honestly have not personally tried the option, but I should try to start activating myself a little more. So in case I ever get to try it, I'll be uploading some stories on Instagram. This running trainer measures cadence and offers techniques for correct running. This is one of the new features included in this watch. And indeed, it comes with dual band GPS, ensuring excellent accuracy when you're running outside, if that's your preference, or for having your route back. However, I must emphasize, honestly, I'm quite a sedentary person, so I don't deeply test the fitness. But you should know that in the indicators when you are exercising, you will see the different zones of your heart rate as well as other parameters. While you are exercising related to this, such as distance or steps, the jumps you have taken if you are jumping rope and other activities, you also have direct access to the playback from the same exercise interface. As you know, you can keep the exercise activity running in the background while you do other tasks, like replying to a WhatsApp message or anything else directly from your wrist. It's quite an advanced operating system that excels in managing exercise activities. After you finish exercising, it provides additional metrics like your body, maximum oxygen consumption for cyclists, and a possible FTP estimation. The well-known Samsung Energy Score isn't just for exercisers. It considers all daily activity overnight as rest and gives a score next day using AI analysis, helping you know if you need more rest or exercise. It is a very good indicator because with a single number you can have more or less a reference of the activity you have had or need to have. And another positive point is that through Samsung Health you can sync all this information with Google Fit, Strava, and some other apps that you can also install through Wear OS to take advantage of all the sensors of this watch. Now, let's discuss the battery of this watch. While we mentioned that health and fitness are the strongest features of this watch, the battery is one of its weaker aspects. It has a capacity of 445 mAh, but that alone doesn't reveal much. In real-world usage, the battery lasts around 30 hours with always-on display turned on, about 25 hours with heavier usage, and up to 48 hours with lighter usage if you disable always-on display and turn off various sensors. So the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is still a device that requires daily charging. If you're a heavy user, you'll find yourself needing to charge it twice a day, once in the morning and again at night before going to bed. To fully utilize all the features this watch offers, including comprehensive physical activity monitoring, you'll need to charge it regularly, which can indeed be somewhat bothersome. Additionally, while it does offer wireless charging, the speed isn't particularly fast or impressive. I've tested other watches that charge faster. In my test, after 15 minutes, it reached 24%, which is quite low since you'll need to charge it daily. At 30 minutes, it reached 45%, and the charge completes in 1 hour and 14 minutes. Note that you can't use reverse wireless charging on some Galaxy phones due to the sensor distance, so you can't fully utilize its capabilities. Of course, it does offer a power-saving mode that you can use, but it will disable many features, so it somewhat loses its purpose. I believe it's absolutely crucial that Samsung enhances the battery in upcoming generations. This is because it's a watch that provides an array of capabilities. It includes highly specialized monitoring features. However, owning a watch that requires daily charging means you need to stick to a specific routine. If one day unexpectedly disrupts this routine, it's quite likely you'll end up with a dead battery, which is really inconvenient. At least if it shuts down due to a depleted battery, as has happened to me numerous times, pressing the button will still show you the time, which is something. However, it will only display the time a few times, maybe 5. Therefore, the battery remains a significant concern for Samsung. It is extremely urgent to enhance its longevity because, while there are alternative options available that might not provide such advanced features or monitoring capabilities, they do offer a considerably longer battery life. Let's now get to know the system of this watch, which is obviously based on what we already know previously from Samsung. But now, it must be said that it comes with an update that will not only change the aesthetics of the watch, but even some features. This new update will be arriving. The rest of the Samsung watches will likely take a bit more time to arrive. However, to begin with, we notice the exact same functionality on the main screen. By pressing and holding, we can access the customization options for various types of dials. This includes the ability to assign different colors, backgrounds, and fonts. There are options for specific colors for some functions, and of course, we can select. The complications if we want additional indicators directly on the watch face in our watchful observation. So in that way, it keeps having very good customization with different types of indicators and various elements for the main cover. Each one of these has different levels of customization. As you can see, some of them also include the option to change the indicators of the clock's outline and some other features. Here, you have the ability to add elements. Naturally, there are some default dials that are available here, but you can also add your own custom dials and modify them directly from the cellular clock. In this regard, the experience is incredibly comprehensive because you have a wide range of variety and customization options. You can install new covers directly from the phone itself. Additionally, you can access another cover store available through the Google Play Store. This means you not only have access to all the covers available in the Google Play Store, which are numerous, but you can also install alternative stores. This provides you with many additional capabilities and options. Installing this app might take a moment. Cover Art Shop for more variety regarding covers specifically is a super complete watch. Note that from the cell phone you can explore again the same variety of covers. In this case, that are featured covers of One UI 8. Observe. So these would be the new cover art that's well crafted to show you. This is some really good information, and in this particular case, they are presented. However, for instance, if you're looking to design your own cover, considering these numerous options available, we have the ability to select, for instance, images. Notice the different layout types on this cover. You have the option to change the background here. In fact, you could select an album from your gallery or choose a story from the ones it generates automatically if you own a Galaxy. Alternatively, you can manually add just a single photo, and here you can select the specific photo you want. You can even edit it slightly by adjusting its brightness, contrast, and other things. That's all. I would have liked to scan photo depth like on cell phones, but the clock placement is simple and its position can be changed, which seems odd. However, you can change its typography and add complications around the clock or at the bottom. So if you have a well thought out customization for your personal dials, even though it lacks depth detection in the photograph, by sliding from the top to the bottom, we get quickly, which by the way, you can customize, so you can definitely add customize, move, and remove buttons entirely to your preference. This will certainly is really quite good. As an operating system here, we will discover several features, for instance, access to modes that synchronize with the mode of your Galaxy phone if you own one. Therefore, from this point, you could ensure both the phone and the clock are configured in various ways. We'll find the menu. Pressing power off, access settings soon. Additionally, there's the button for quickly turning on or off the always-on display mode. In my case, I moved it to the first page. This is among the most useful buttons to make your phone ring, and I use it approximately 6 times every day. Next, we have access to the flashlight. Be careful because on Samsung devices, the flashlight functions intelligently. When you press it, there's a brief waiting period to prevent dazzling, giving you... Additionally, consider that by using the rotating frame, you have the ability to adjust the flashlight's brightness with ease. If you touch it, you can switch back and forth between different brightness levels, or even make the screen flash for emergency warnings or similar situations. Furthermore, we will also find controls for volume mode, brightness adjustments, power saving mode, and do not disturb settings. You can also directly access the sound settings from here. And finally, network management, water mode, airplane mode, and connecting Bluetooth headphones. Over here, this button activates or deactivates location, so as you can see, it offers great tools in this menu. From the bottom up, we access the app list. This is different as most watches from the bottom up show notifications, but Samsung is different. Imagine that Samsung provides an experience quite similar to what we encounter on their... In this manner, you can access the controls, and in that manner, you can access the applications. Essentially, it's quite similar. Take into account that a button is also displayed here where we can locate the list of recent applications, as it is a rec clock equipped with multitasking capabilities. Additionally, we will discover an option to modify the view of the applications. If you prefer at the top, there's a dock showing recommended apps or those that the watch smartly detects as the most frequently used or apps you tend to use at specific times during the day. Meanwhile, at the bottom, you'll find the traditional list displaying the names of each application. This is helpful if you prefer something much clearer, as the other view is more aesthetic, but without the names, which might complicate things a little bit. On the main screen, scrolling right shows widgets like health indicators, each with info in a capsule or card. Some dislike this, but I like the one Watch8 watch design. We also find fitness settings with basic info. In this case, just select one more and add quick settings to the page. So, the truth is you have some really great options available here, and naturally, you can continue to add more and more. For example, be simply stress indicators, heart rate, or perhaps another app. In this regard, the experience is incredibly comprehensive because you can even include a WhatsApp widget with your favorite contacts or a shortcut. To the Spotify application, your personal notes. Google Keep, in short, is an exaggeratedly complex operating system that has many options. On the left side, the notifications will be positioned. If there's a new notification, you'll see a small orange dot indicating it. Take note that notifications appear within this horizontal scroll, and we can dismiss them easily by sliding each notification upward. The key point here is that receiving a notification won't interrupt whatever task you're currently engaged in. For example, let's say we are browsing on Google Play, and suddenly we receive a message. It appears only at the top, and if we want, we can click to go directly to it. To this notification, which will still be stored over here regardless. Please be aware that with WhatsApp, there are two possible behaviors. In this instance, I've installed the WhatsApp app on the watch. Therefore, from this particular view, I'm unable to respond directly to the message. However, I do have the option to select that I wish to open WhatsApp from the watch, and take note that here I can view the entire list. I can see the messages I have received in this conversation, not just the last notification, which is already a very big advantage over other watches, but I can also record an audio message directly in WhatsApp or open the keyboard to be able to respond to something more specific. Alternatively, I have the option to choose one of the default responses or even just send an emoji. This is the typical behavior for WhatsApp. If WhatsApp wasn't installed, the behavior would resemble what we observe with notifications from other apps such as Telegram. It's important to note that we indeed have the capability to respond directly without needing to open a separate application. Simply accessing the notification is sufficient, and right there we have our writing field ready for use. We can additionally have suggestions for emojis, and we might also have suggestions generated by artificial intelligence. For instance, if your watch detects that you have received a message with options or something like that, it might be able to create a response that is adapted to it. However, it doesn't always work perfectly as seen in this situation. Sometimes you have to log out and then log back in. Therefore, it seems that this artificial intelligence feature, surely with some update they can correct it, because it takes a little time to generate the response and suddenly says that it did not work. Curiously, in the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, which was the last generation, if it worked faster. So I insist that surely this is a small bug that should be corrected with an update for this feature if you need to have the watch connected to a high-end Galaxy cell phone. But anyway, note that here it is taking a while and does not react. But well, it serves that I also show you the keyboard, because we have a full keyboard where we can write not only touching letter by letter, but we also have the possibility to enable writing by drawing the letters, which would be little comfortable. But there it is available in case you want to use it in some moments. Additionally, please be aware that in the settings we will have the option to enable scroll typing. Although this feature is not activated by default, it is very useful. It allows us to effortlessly swipe over letters to type without any issues. As for managing notifications, it will generally be quite positive, except for a minor bug regarding the artificial intelligence response suggestions. In this particular case, it is the watch will easily display emojis, including the common ones, without any issues. This is unlike other watches that may show an X or perhaps nothing at all. Furthermore, it has the capability to display stickers aren't used, so you can easily view them from the notifications list or directly in the WhatsApp app. Interestingly, when you get stickers, if WhatsApp is installed, you won't see the sticker in the notification. You must open WhatsApp from the watch, and here, if you can see the stickers that are sent to you, I find it quite curious because when WhatsApp isn't installed, you can view the sticker directly from the notifications list. In a similar way, when you get a picture, if WhatsApp isn't on your device, you can see the preview directly from this notifications list. However, if WhatsApp is installed on the watch, you actually have to open WhatsApp to access and view this picture. The behavior seems a little curious to me because, as you'll notice, when you install WhatsApp, while you gain the benefit of being able to access the full history of conversations or start conversations, you lose certain capabilities of the notifications, and I truly hope they can refine that because it is something quite important that they should address. Additionally, when you get several notifications from individuals who send messages in this particular manner, I'll observe that the clock holds its vibration and is promptly updated in this very view, handling it flawlessly. It's not annoying because the watch isn't constantly vibrating. In one way, you can see and read all the messages clearly, and if you receive messages from other groups, you can still view them exactly the same way. Although in this instance I got messages from 2 contacts simultaneously, it was only displaying the messages from 1 contact. However, notice how we will be able to explore the messages from both contacts grouped in a personal way. So this is one of the watches that really excels at handling notifications. Here, I have the ability to log in and view the entire history of messages that I have received from this contact as well as the same from another contact. Therefore, it is definitely very efficient at managing notifications. If I wanted to dismiss both, I can simply swipe them up and that's all. A significant advantage is that you have access to a comprehensive catalog of apps that generally are not available. We can begin the demo at the Google Play Store, where you can install additional apps, enhancing capabilities. The Play Store is one of the most renowned app stores for watches. Generally, you'll find high-quality apps or popular services like music services available here. If you have various categories that you need to access, all of these platforms, so this is definitely one of its strongest points. And speaking specifically of the applications that already comes pre-installed, something we could highlight is the presence of Google Maps, where you can follow a route to tell you when to turn left, when to turn right. Quite useful when you're walking the streets and do not want to take out your phone to see where you're going on the map. We'll also find other apps from Samsung like Calendar Access, which is cool because you can see a month or today's agenda. We'll also find, for instance, Samsung Wallet does need a pin on the screen for setup. In certain regions, you might have the capability to make payments using Samsung Wallet. However, in other regions, you will fully depend on Google Wallet. This will also be functional for adding your credit or debit card regardless. So this is also another highlight. The fact that you can pay directly from your watch makes it a very attractive watch. But now let's talk about the voice assistant, which can become controversial because you saw that there is Gemini, which has a shortcut, and there is also Bixby at the top. Samsung is still not giving up its own voice assistant, even though clearly Gemini will have very good capabilities. Nevertheless, Bixby still has some capabilities that we won't find in Gemini. As you noticed, Bixby immediately recognized my voice because it's configured that way, but that can also consume you a bit more power. So the ideal will be to try to turn off that option. And to do that, you should head to Settings, then Advanced Features, and over here Bixby will appear. In this section, you will learn how to turn off this option, which will help you stop consuming excessive battery life. This is particularly useful in a watch with these features. Now, let's take a moment to interact with Gemini so you can see its capabilities for yourself. Interestingly, one thing I've already discovered is that it cannot change its own volume. When you look closely at the volume section, you'll notice that the wizard is volume is but Google's own assistant is not able to modify this volume. But let's interact with it. Hi, Gemini. Do you know what device I'm using you from? Personal information. I can't even tell what device you're using. Can you tell me the most recent releases Samsung has made? Samsung's most recent releases include the Galaxy S25 series, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and the Galaxy Z Flip 7, in addition to the Galaxy Watch 8. This watch connects to Google services like Boost. As a voice assistant for information, it's excellent. It's simply amazing, unlike Bixby. You can ask it anything. How many calories in an apple? A medium apple has about 80 kilocalories. So, as you can clearly see, it serves as an excellent assistant for locating and retrieving information. Additionally, it has the capability to connect to various Google services as well as Samsung services. For instance, let's try asking it, what events do I have scheduled for this week in my calendar? As demonstrated, it is connected to Samsung's calendar to provide me with this information. However, in any situation, if you are able to obtain information from your calendar, or you can also add various things to your notes. Record this to-do list in Samsung Notes, go pick up the dog, get my haircut, and stop by to buy the groceries. Now, observe that in this case, it did not connect to Samsung Notes. Instead, it created a to-do list within Google Keep. So we don't have the same integration with Samsung's apps that we see from their cell phones, but at least it does seem to be able to interact with other Google services to create dependent lists and the like. It can also interact with the watch itself by using a 3-minute timer. The truth is that the voice recognition is actually quite good. Although interestingly, when you set a timer, there are moments when the screen unexpectedly turns off. However, it does work well. And speaking of which, take note that here's the Neo bar. It was an addition in cell phones and has now transitioned. This Now bar lets you give a quick glance of live activities, in this case a timer for example. But as you saw, the voice assistant is indeed capable of interacting with these kinds of elements. However, Bixby still has a utility that is not present in Gemini, and it is to control smart TV devices. For example, let's try saying with Gemini, turn on the air conditioner, and note that in this case, it asks me to use Google Home. Even though I tell it to use smart things, it's not going to control my smart home devices, and that's kind of frustrating, at least if you were already used to using Bixby to turn on your TV or some other Samsung connected devices. Here, it won't be possible, but watch as Bixby can. Turn on the air conditioner. Now wait, it says okay, and my air conditioner just turned on. It's on, so Bixby remains on this watch. Sadly, you must choose one. Or keep Gemini access via this button or with a long press. Double tap to choose Bixby. This way, you can have both assistants available on the same button. It's a bit of a trick, but for the time being, it seems that Gemini is still unable to fully replace Bixby. Although Gemini is quite good and good capabilities. Now, of course, we will find the traditional applications such as phone, contacts, messages, compass, or also an application to try to find your devices. Access to the weather forecast timer, which in this case, as you see, comes with some lists of presets or you can manually configure some. Observe in this instance how it's possible to have a single timer, yet we also have the option to incorporate additional timers, which is certainly beneficial because there are other watches that only allow us to have an active timer. Timer in this case may be more, and that is also a differentiating factor. For example, in the alarms, we will also find a good configuration because we can not only set several alarms, but also configure their repetition times, on what date, if we want to put if we want specific sounds or vibration patterns for alarms and decide their snoozability and frequency, it becomes a more complex system than usual. In the clock, we also have the ability to access the stopwatch feature, where we can easily select it and make multiple laps without any issues. As you noticed, it operates flawlessly. Additionally, we have access to the world clock. SmartThings access, which will be fundamental to the smart home experience, something that other watches are not going to have. If you have your Galaxy ecosystem connected, from here you could see a big list of devices. For example, I can here take a look at the air conditioner, the humidity that the air conditioner detects. I can trigger routines directly. Or I can individually control my devices such as the air conditioner and my lights, my intelligent tracking tags, the light in my room, and even the status of the washer or dryer. So, right from your watch, you can check if the washing cycle is complete and similar tasks. We also have access to the gallery that allows us to transfer images from the cell phone to the watch to be able to take a moment to check them out. If you own Galaxy Buds, you have the option to control them right from here, allowing you to enable or disable noise cancellation and adjust other settings. Additionally, we have direct access to the music player, which can either be on your watch or used to control the music playing on your phone. For example, in this situation, my phone. If you have a Galaxy cell phone, you also have access to the camera shutter, and note that in this case I have my cell phone locked, but if I access this part, it immediately unlocks because it detects that it is my watch. Something I find useful is having the preview here. For example, if we switch to this camera, there's the preview. We also have the countdown. Touching it activates vibration, showing the countdown progress. We can switch to video or photo mode directly from the watch. Even if we decide to move the frame, In the rotating ring, we have the ability to change the zoom. Take note, in this particular case, it is switching between two distinct amplitude settings. I believe it becomes more apparent if we utilize the rear camera. Notice how by moving the ring, we can continuously adjust the zoom, even though there is the photograph. I believe that in this context, it will be much clearer to understand how it functions from this perspective. This way you can observe how the phone reacts almost instantly, even though the preview requires a bit more time to adjust. However, it is definitely a highly advanced function within the ecosystem that Samsung offers. We also have the Outlook application if you prefer to use that email service. And we also have access to the reminders, which brings different categories. That is, it is the same application of reminders of the cell phone, but moved to the watch. So you can, for example, add the name of some reminder that you want to have, times, repeats, and a variety of other things. In fact, through Gemini, you can also add reminders. For instance, you can set it to remind you every day at 12 o'clock. Give me a slight stretch and you'll see it instantly links to the Samsung reminder service. That's all there is to it, and you've successfully added it. So this is actually an excellent method to engage with the watch, allowing you to set various reminders that can help you in your daily routine. Following that, we have the voice recorder feature, which is incredibly useful. This is because it enables you to transfer your voice recordings directly and immediately to your cell phone. As a result, you can create transcripts right away without any delay. It's important. Then we are going to find also available the calculator, which, as you will notice, is not just a basic calculator, but you also have here more buttons, and if you slide from the bottom up, you can also access the tip calculator, where you can select how many people are and how much they want to tip, so that it shows you how much money each one should contribute, or also a unit converter. So essentially, it's an extremely advanced calculator, very comprehensive indeed. Then we notice Samsung's own Global Goals app, which, to be honest, we don't really pay much attention to. Furthermore, there are various apps that I've personally installed, such as Amazon Music and Spotify. There's also this particular app that enables us to keep track of soccer scores. Moreover, you even have Samsung's very own web browser. Notice, here I am playing a video of my own channel directly from the watch. And the truth is that the experience is not perceived as slow as one would imagine, although obviously the fact of visualizing web pages that are generally intended for a view with straight screens will cause you to lose space here, although you can do this gesture and see the buttons that could be on the edges. But, well, in any case, here you have the opportunity to explore practically any page you desire. It's important to note that by sliding from the bottom to the top, you can add pages to your favorites, or you can also choose if you want to apply zoom using the rotating frame. And well, in this section, you also, as you saw, I installed WhatsApp. I mentioned it changes the behavior significantly, so it's up to you whether to install it. However, even without it installed, and well, you have access to Samsung's own messaging app and audiobooks. These are just some of the apps that I have installed. But let me remind you that through the Play Store, you can actually install even more apps. And I'm not sure if you noticed a moment ago, but take a look at how sometimes buttons get activated. This little gesture appears, which indicates that I can do this to activate the button. In that particular section, you might notice that at this moment, it took a bit longer to respond, but eventually, it's a gesture that will work for you. There are some buttons available on the interface to interact with. For example, if I enter the camera app again, notice how that gesture appears, which means I can do this to start capturing the image. And as you notice, there are times where it can work faster than others. I think it's a little bit of a learning curve where you more or less learn how to give a different stroke the watch can get to detect so that it works effectively. And finally, let's head to the settings. You'll notice it's quite similar to what we see on Samsung phones. This indicates Samsung's aim to unify its operating system, providing a consistent experience. It's divided into connections, where we also find NFC, Bluetooth, airplane mode, and other features. Additionally, the modes and routines are exactly like those on Samsung phones. Also the sound and vibration settings, and even notifications, where you can select which notifications if you want to receive, which notifications not if you want to enable the disturb. And then the display settings, where we can once again observe the traditional features and even various options such as raising the wrist to activate it, tapping to activate, or even turning the bezel to activate it. Additionally, you have the ability, the typography can be adjusted with some additional settings, and then you'll find the battery settings. In this section, you'll likely need to regularly enable power saving mode. It provides a list of some features that I recommend turning off. However, if you prefer not to disable health-related features, you can this and enable power saving mode. In addition, we will explore the configuration of the buttons and gestures. I mentioned earlier that these have a significant amount of customization options, and this is where gestures are available. For instance, you can bring two fingers together or even shake your hand. It's important to note that you can easily dismiss or reject a call with this gesture. The watch also includes these gestures like knock knock, where you can choose to open a specific application by performing this gesture similar to knocking on a door. So you have a diverse array of gestures to interact with the system. Of course, they will use slightly more power when they're turned on. So it's really up to your personal preference whether you want them on or off. In the Samsung Health settings, you can also choose how you want it to function, such as heart rate, stress monitoring, sleep tracking, and more, including automatic detection of activities and times of inactivity. And then come the traditional functions like medical data or your emergency contacts. And here is the section where you can choose if you would like to enable or disable the strong fall detection feature. To select who your trusted contact is and notify them. Then we will find the basic account settings for both Samsung and Google. Accounts, and in advanced features is the disconnection alert option, which is quite useful for not forgetting your cell phone. So you can select to get a full screen alert if you're not at home or somewhere else and your watch isn't connected to your phone. You also have the option available here to customize the waterlock settings. Additionally, you can choose how you prefer your status indicators to be displayed. Furthermore, you have the flexibility to decide on the style of the neo bar. Would you like it to be? You even have the ability to adjust the behavior within different apps, allowing you to choose how you prefer it to appear. Additionally, there's an option to access media controls when you're playing a song. Instead of displaying your watch face, it will directly present a player control section for your convenience. Moreover, we also have the device care functions. Similar to what you find on a cell phone, these can provide us with various helpful suggestions. Here we view storage and memory status. We can check installed apps to uninstall or update system apps. In general settings, there's the text-to-speech engine selector for the dictionary. The watch can send messages. You can adjust date settings without syncing to your phone and manage keyboard settings or replies here. Of course, we can also transfer it to a new phone, although you need to have exactly the same Google account on your new phone if you want to do that. Remember that Samsung does not allow to have several Galaxy Watch synchronized or linked to the same phone, so you have to use them one by one. And that's basically all we have available on this watch. In conclusion, in design, it will be very different from the last generation. Personally, I didn't like it so much because the screen is now smaller, although it looks like an original design, but I liked it better the way it looked before. Of course, it keeps the rotating frame, which will give a super premium feel, and adds the button it inherits from the Galaxy Watch Ultra for more functions. It still supports different types of wrist gestures to interact with the watch, which endows you with even more possibilities. It now uses Gemini as the default voice assistant, allowing you to ask for any information which it will quickly Google or search elsewhere to provide. Additionally, it interacts with your watch for setting timers, reminders, calendar events, and more. However, it can't control SmartThings devices, so you'll still need Bixby. The watch can make calls, play music, but its specialty is health monitoring. The Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is the only one that will be able to give you an antioxidant index, vascular load, and which helps you track your eating and blood glucose. Plus, it measures blood pressure with the device, does ECG, and offers basic monitoring like other watches. However, the short battery life wastes its health features. You'll need to charge it daily or it may often turn off. This is its weakest point, losing several favor points. It still retains access. You'll see how many applications perfect notification management lets you dictate answers. And the OS feels ultra fluid in interaction and elements. But well, for the moment we have reached the end of this little video that was perhaps longer than I expected. I hope you liked it. If so, you know you can indicate it, and see you next time.